Hello everyone. Have you ever wondered how India's strict law against sex selection actually compares with the rules followed by other countries around the world? Today we are going to walk through the complete architecture of the Preconception and Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Prohibition of Sex Selection Act 1994, commonly called the PCPNDT Act, and then see how it measures up against global standards. The PCPNDT Act was created to provide for the prohibition of sex selection both before and after conception, and to regulate prenatal diagnostic techniques so that they are not misused for sex determination, leading to female foeticide. It rests on three pillars. Prohibition places an absolute ban on sex selective practices at every stage. Regulation strictly limits diagnostic technologies to only legitimate and specified abnormalities. Prevention aims to arrest the declining child sex ratio and eradicate the deep rooted evil of female foeticide. The law's history shows a steady tightening of regulation. It began in 1994 as the Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Regulation and Prevention of Misuse Act, focused mainly on post conception ultrasound misuse. It came into force on January 1st, 1996. By 2001, portable ultrasound and advanced reproductive technology exposed loopholes in the original law. In 2003, a major amendment renamed it the Preconception and Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Prohibition of Sex Selection Act, expanding its scope to include preconception sex selection and banning the sale of ultrasound machines to unregistered entities. In 2014, strict training rules, including a 6-month training requirement, were added to regulate operator qualifications. The Act defines human development in precise stages. A conceptus is any product of conception at any stage from fertilization until birth. An embryo is a developing human organism after fertilization until the end of 8 weeks or 56 days. A fetus is a human organism from the 57th day following fertilization onward. The key point is that the Act's jurisdiction is absolute from the very moment of fertilization onward. The law also regulates specific facilities. A genetic counseling center provides genetic counseling to patients. A genetic laboratory conducts analysis or tests of samples received from clinics. A genetic clinic is used for conducting prenatal diagnostic procedures. Notably, the Act explicitly includes a vehicle within the definition of a genetic clinic if an ultrasound machine or portable equipment capable of detecting sex is used inside it, meaning a van is regulated with the same severity as a hospital. Legal qualifications are equally strict. A sonologist or imaging specialist must hold a recognized medical qualification under the Indian Medical Council Act, or a postgraduate qualification in ultrasonography, imaging techniques, or radiology. A gynecologist must hold a postgraduate qualification in gynecology and obstetrics. A medical geneticist must hold a degree or diploma in genetic science or 2 or more years of experience after obtaining an Indian Medical Council Act qualification or a postgraduate degree in biological sciences. Operating without these precise qualifications is an immediate and punishable breach of the Act. There are clear boundaries of practice. Permitted diagnostics under Section 4 are allowed only for legitimate targets such as chromosomal abnormalities, genetic metabolic diseases, hemoglobinopathies, sex-linked genetic diseases, and congenital anomalies, and only under required conditions such as maternal age above 35, a history of 2 or more spontaneous abortions, exposure to drugs or radiation, or a family history of mental retardation or physical deformities. Absolute prohibitions under Sections 3A, 5, and 6 include preconception sex selection on tissues, gametes, or embryos, determining fetal sex through any procedure, communicating fetal sex by words or signs, and seeking or encouraging sex selection by relatives or husbands. The administrative machinery works at two levels. The Central Supervisory Board handles policy creation, reviewing implementation, generating public awareness, and laying down codes of conduct. It is chaired by the Minister of Family Welfare, includes medical experts, members of parliament, and state representatives, and meets every 6 months. The State or Union Territory Supervisory Board handles state level enforcement monitoring and sends consolidated reports to the Central Board, meeting every 4 months. At the ground level, the appropriate authority, referred to as the enforcer, grants, suspends, and cancels registrations and can conduct suo motu investigations, summon persons, and issue search warrants. It includes the Joint Director of Health, a legal officer, and a representative of a women's organization. The Advisory Committee, referred to as the consultant, aids and advises the appropriate authority but has no independent search or seizure powers and is composed of 3 medical experts, 1 legal expert, 1 information officer, and 3 social workers. Compliance requires compulsory registration under sections 18 and 19, meaning no operation is permitted without an active certificate, valid for exactly 5 years. Certificates are non-transferable, so any change in ownership, management, or location requires a fresh application, and certificates must be displayed in a highly conspicuous place. Under Section 3B, it is a criminal offense for manufacturers or vendors to sell ultrasound machines or scanners to any unregistered clinic, laboratory, or individual, extending the regulatory net to hardware suppliers. Legal sonography follows 6 steps. First, clinical indication, verifying the legal justification for the scan. Second, mandatory disclosure of all known side effects to the pregnant woman. Third, written consent using Form G with a copy given to the patient. Fourth, the procedure itself, conducted strictly for the permitted diagnostic purpose. Fifth, absolute silence, meaning the fetal sex must never be communicated in any manner. Sixth, record preservation, completing Form F and preserving all charts and sonographic plates for a minimum of 2 years. Under Section 30, the search, seize, and seal pathway is triggered when there is reason to believe an offense is being committed. This allows unannounced entry and search, seizure of records and machinery, and ultimately the physical sealing of the ultrasound machine and premises. The use of external monitoring devices, such as the silent observer, to track machine usage and Form F compliance has been upheld by high courts as a valid regulatory tool. One of the most distinctive features of the Act is the shifted burden of proof under Section 24. Notwithstanding the Indian Evidence Act of 1872, the court presumes, unless proven otherwise, that the pregnant woman was compelled to undergo the diagnostic technique or sex selection. Because of this presumption, she is exempt from prosecution, while the husband, relatives, and any aiding medical practitioner are automatically charged with abetment and held fully liable. The penalty structure under Section 23 is severe. For a medical practitioner or clinic owner, a first offense carries up to 3 years imprisonment and a fine of up to 10,000 rupees, while a subsequent offense carries up to 5 years imprisonment and a fine of up to 50,000 rupees. For a husband, relative, or pregnant woman seeking aid, a first offense carries up to 3 years imprisonment and a fine of up to 50,000 rupees, while a subsequent offense carries up to 5 years imprisonment and a fine of up to 1 lakh rupees. Under Section 22, issuing any advertisement regarding sex determination carries up to 3 years imprisonment and a 10,000 rupee fine. Professional sanctions follow conviction. Under Section 23.2, once charges are framed, the appropriate authority reports the practitioner to the State Medical Council. Before conviction, registration is suspended. Upon a first conviction, The practitioner's name is removed from the register for 5 years, and upon a subsequent conviction, removal becomes permanent. Under Section 27, the offence is cognizable, meaning police can arrest without a warrant, non-bailable, meaning bail is at the discretion of the court, and non-compoundable, meaning parties cannot settle privately. Under Section 26, if an offence is committed by a hospital or company, the person in charge of business conduct is deemed guilty unless they prove the offence occurred without their knowledge or that they exercised due diligence to prevent it. Under Section 31, complete legal immunity is granted to the government, appropriate authorities, and authorized officers for any action taken in good faith under the Act. Bringing this together, the individual burden of rigid Form F compliance, zero tolerance for errors, the threat of machine sealing, and the shifted burden of proof connects directly to the larger societal mandate of reversing the decline in child sex ratio, eradicating female foeticide, and restoring gender equity. This lack of leniency is not a bureaucratic flaw, it is an intentional feature, because absolute clinical regulation is the only viable weapon against an invisible societal crime. Now let us look at how India's model compares globally. To categorize jurisdictions worldwide, the India model is used as the comparative baseline. Alignment with this baseline requires strict prohibition across two non-negotiable vectors. The first is the act of selection, meaning explicit prohibition of non-medical sex selection through in vitro fertilization, commonly called IVF or pre-implantation genetic testing, referred to as PGT or PGD. The second is the act of disclosure, meaning explicit prohibition of prenatal fetal sex disclosure for non-medical reasons, to prevent culturally driven gender-biased terminations. Applying this baseline across 15 jurisdictions produces a clear global matrix. Countries aligned with the India model, meaning they ban both non-medical selection and prenatal disclosure through statute, include China, South Korea, Vietnam, Nepal, and Kosovo. The United Kingdom, Canada, and New Zealand also align, enforcing this through both statute and guideline. Austria, Switzerland, Spain, and Australia align as well, though with statutory medical exceptions. On the other hand, some jurisdictions diverge sharply from this model. Singapore and Thailand allow both non-medical selection and prenatal disclosure under permissive law. The United States shows a fragmented approach, with selection bans varying by state and disclosure generally allowed. It is also worth noting that in China, despite explicit bans on sex-selective abortion, prenatal sex disclosure through ultrasound remains common in practice. Hope you have understood about the PCPNDT Act blueprint, a definitive architecture of compliance, liability, and medical legal mandates. If you found this video useful, please watch and share with your friends and colleagues. Thank you.